Hello and good evening, agents. I am Daphne D., also known as Agent Ms. Parker, and I am tonight's host for Behind the Scanner. Welcome to episode number 9 of our weekly Thursday night broadcast. And today is June 19th, 2014. Just as a reminder, if you can't watch the whole show, you can watch it later on, unedited on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/behindthescanner. And as usual, we've enabled our Q&A feature, and just if you have a specific question for one of our guests, please submit it by writing at the person's name at the start of your question so that we know whom to ask when they're on. Our producer, Andrew, will be checking your submissions, and we'll ask 1 or 2 live questions during each interview and possibly use one for the panel topic. And, you know, we can't have this show without some really good guests, so I'm sure you've got some really great people you can recommend. So please go to bit.ly/BTS_guest to let us know who we should meet. And, well, let's go ahead and get started with the show. Starting with my 2 co-hosts for this week, Jorge Pedrero.
Hey, hello.
He's also known as Triskel in the game.
Release the Kraken!
Yes, the Kraken has been released, and he brings that in Ingress. Please welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here again with us. And well, I feel that I'm gonna be enlightened today because not even we have. I have 2 co-hosts enlightened, but we have 2 guests enlightened, and I have a big storm here in Mexico, so maybe a thunder gets enlightened me, and well, I don't know, but it's going to be a good show.
All right, great. And our second co-host for tonight is Andrew Krug. Contrary to Yes, Mr. Red Solo Cup. And contrary to popular belief, his beard does not also have an account. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. Is that against the TOS if I just put it up here and it plays by itself? I don't know. We can find out. Thank you. All right, well, let's just jump into it. So, our first guest actually comes from the city, I did not know this, where peanut butter was invented and patented. He's a level 13 agent from Montreal, Canada. Please welcome Darren Satkunas. Hopefully I said your last name right, because I completely just butchered your first name. Sorry.
No, that's good, Andrew. Sounds good. Darren Satkunas. How you doing, guys?
Welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Hopefully there's no storms there, so you don't flip resistance and even out Jorge. That would be unfortunate.
No, beautiful weather here. It's looking good.
Excellent. So Darren, I've known you for a while. We've communicated. We're in a bunch of hangouts together. But for those of watching who don't know you, who are you? What do you do for a living? We mentioned you live in Montreal, Canada, but what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, I get up late. I go into work. I work as an information systems architect and a Linux server administrator. So I basically wear many hats during the day, technically, and at night, run an organization and play Ingress. That's my life.
Nice. Work and play.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I hear you're a pretty adventurous person, having traveled like over 5,000 kilometers in March playing Ingress.
Yeah, actually.
Go ahead.
10,000 kilometers now with Cincinnati and Rimouski.
Interesting.
Wow.
Well, then
Since March,
I should probably ask you about your unique portals visited.
About 3,000.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Well, aside from the Ingress, but if you could witness any event, past, present, or future, what would it be?
That's a good question. It'd probably be a future event. With Project Loon and the O3B with Google, I'm actually looking forward to sharing the internet with the rest of the world, the other 3 million people. And a future event I'd like to see is children in Africa and people around the world being connected as one.
Very cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, Darren, I know that Ingress players don't have so much free time. I really know that. And well, but when you have 30 minutes, what do you do? How do you pass your time?
Free 30 minutes, probably catching up on email. Would that be considered free though?
Probably not.
Talking to family and friends back home in Edmonton. That's about it. Just catching up on communication and just talking to people and maybe getting some sleep or grabbing a coffee.
So I'm gonna go back to a question you just answered, and that was, if you could witness anything, what would you see? How do you think that would change? Like Africa. There's the initiative of what was it, the $10 laptop or $1 laptop or something like that.
That's an entrepreneur from Montreal that's using Android devices and they're shipping them to India. How I think it would change is it would bring basic human rights, a lot of equality worldwide. Once people have an access to education, they have an access to communicating with each other, it'll bring up the lower class in the world and educate people around the world equally. And basic human rights are only a couple hundred years old, and we see a lot of conflict in the world with that today. A lot of famine, a lot of people that could do a lot better if they had a right to education, and that's what excites me.
Do you think, though, that governments would allow that? Because we already see governments censoring that.
I don't think there's censorship to education at all. I just think it's a matter of accessibility. If you can make an Android device and give it to somebody on the other side of the world for $5 with a solar recharger, and like the Loon project with Google with the balloons, or the O3B where they're actually doing low orbit satellites and connecting people around the world for very low cost, you can give people anywhere a free education, a cheap education. A lot of people don't have access to schools on the other side of the world because they have to walk 20 or 30 miles in the desert to get to school, so it's just not an option for them. So you can take these devices and give it to them and bring the education to their home instead of forcing them to have to go 20 or 30 kilometers to get that education. In some cases, hundreds of kilometers. Make it possible for people to be who they can be, who they want to be anything.
What do you think about the last mile in the United States and trying to light that up?
The last mile, well, the U.S., a lot of people have right to education. I think it's the other side of the world we need to look at. It's a global community now, and Ingress makes it smaller, and there are other things that make it smaller, and it's just the access to technology, the access to those tools.
I'm sorry, I think we can go on quite a bit, but I'm really fascinated about this. And one of the biggest trends for education and expanding access, that at least we have here in the U.S., is online education. Now, is that part of what you might be interested in also exploring?
Exploring? No, I have an education. I was fortunate to be born and raised in a first world country.
I'm sorry, with the project you were just talking about, like when you were talking about sharing education for developing countries.
Yeah, it's just connecting people around the world and giving them the ability to do that. And that's where the education will come from, is through the internet. You can now connect teachers from anywhere with students anywhere, and they'll get curious and have access to information. Yeah, so they can learn other languages, and they can learn other trades. They can learn how to build a water pump out of materials that they've got accessible, which they have no clue how to do right now.
Information is definitely key. It's and access to it, I should say. So.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned growing up. You grew up in a first world country, and you had access to a great education system and support system around you. But I'm sure you also got into a little bit of trouble growing up, as we all do, especially boys, adventurous and all that. So what sort of things did you do that actually got you into trouble?
Well, I grew up in northern town in Alberta, where we were about 500 kilometers from the next city in Fort McMurray. Just getting stuck a couple hours in the woods with a 4x4 and having to go hiking. The usual stuff that you do when you're in the middle of nowhere. A lot of drinking through my teenage years, a lot of partying. And then I realized I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life, so I got out of there and I headed south to Edmonton and went to school in Edmonton for 4 or 5 years, worked, and then met a French girl, and I moved out east in 2001, and I've been in Montreal ever since.
Yeah. All right, so from Montreal, back to Ingress. Now, how did you convince 8 other people to drive 12 hours to Cincinnati to play?
Yeah, actually, it wasn't just Montreal agents, it was Quebec City agents, Trois-Rivières agents. I was definitely going to go myself with another agent here, Jape01, Jean-Pierre Lalonde. The two of us were going to go, and I just was interested to see if there would maybe be a third or a fourth, so I put up an event, an open invitation to my community for people to come, and reached out a little further to Quebec City and the other outlying areas, and next thing you know, we had 9 people signed up, and the guy I was originally supposed to go with couldn't make it. So 9 of us made the 13-hour drive down to Cincinnati and loved it immensely. The reason I wanted to go is because we've had 2 secondary anomalies in Montreal for Minotaur and 13 Magnus, and I wanted to experience a primary for the first time in a U.S. city. And the amount of players down there was much more than what we've seen, and I just wanted to experience that myself, and I was lucky enough to experience that with some great friends and some good people that I got to know while I was down there for the weekend, and I had a great time. We all did. Thought it was amazing.
Well, hopefully there'll be an anomaly back up in Montreal soon, because I love Montreal, and I would be willing to go there at any time.
I keep hearing that from a lot of people, actually, and I think Montreal would make a great place to have a primary. I'm hoping I got my fingers crossed, so waiting for it.
I hope too, because my sister lives there, and I want to go visit her.
I think there's a requirement, though, that only enlightened are allowed across the border. Sure.
I don't think so. My my visa says I can go there.
All right, Darren, are you up for some questions from the audience?
Absolutely.
All right, there's actually 2 really good ones that are sort of related. So I'm gonna ask these 2. One is actually from Jean-Pierre. He's asking, he knows that you've been playing since the birth of Ingress, but what keeps you hooked on as an everyday active player, or what keeps you hooked on as a very active player? So I guess, why do you keep playing every day?
My game's changed. When you first start playing Ingress, it's about your immediate area, across the street, and then you graduate and you're taking care of your neighborhood, and then you're taking care of the district in your city, and then next thing you know, you've got a community with 400 people in it, and you're taking care of not just your city, but almost an entire province, just inspiring people to have fun together. And it is definitely like an echo in behind the scanners. It's about the social aspect of the game, is what I enjoy so much. Just I didn't volunteer to do what I do, but I enjoy it. I'm scared every time I do an operation. I'm scared of failure. We have had failures, but that doesn't stop me. It's about trying, and it's about inspiring other people, and it's about having, trying it together and working together. Like what happened last weekend with Green Marble involved hundreds of agents from around the world, and most I've never even spoken with. And my responsibility wasn't as big as some others. When I look at the crib sheet of agents involved, we were just a small footnote, but the fear is still present. But everyone partakes in the big picture, and to work with other people and to achieve great things, and that's what's so much fun about it.
So the other question I wanted to ask you kind of touched on it, is Sherry Pui asks, how do you keep new agents inspired to continue to play and exploring new portals?
You have to engage them. we figured out a secret, actually, I'll share. Google Plus closes the door for communication for new players if you have a private community. So what we decided to do was open a buffer community called the Proving Grounds, where agents could come in openly into the community, and we can engage them in communication almost immediately and meet them. So that barrier, we brought down that barrier of having a private community, and we engage all the new players as early as we can, and display our socializing. And we have a few criteria. We try to get them through the Proving Grounds quickly and get them in the community. One of the requirements is to meet them face-to-face, to meet somebody face-to-face on the street, where we can walk them through tips and talk about stuff that's going on. And then once they're in the community, we just try to involve them as much as possible. You know, a farming event, or there's some cross-faction artwork that we're working on right now that we're going to involve both communities, the Resistance and the Enlightened in Montreal, with here next Tuesday for Saint Jean Baptiste. And just to keep them interested is just to engage them. Most players will go out there and hit level 8, and if I find if a player plays by himself and he hits level 8, he'll quit playing. There's nothing left for him. But if you can engage that player before they get to level 8 and show them that there's friendships that can be made and there's adventure that can be had with other people, they'll probably stick around and they'll be more interested in the game after they hit 8, because there's something there for them. Does that answer your question?
No, that's perfect. I mean, the teamwork aspect of it is just huge, both from what you can experience socially, but also, I mean, you need 8 folks to make level 8 portals, so it's kind of a game mechanic if you want to call it that as well.
Well, I was the first. I wasn't the first level 8 player in Quebec, but I was the first level 8 enlightened player in Quebec. And I realized at that point that the next logical goal for me, was to build a level 8 portal. And I looked around at the people that around me in the community. There wasn't much community back then because there were so few players. But I took the decision to mentor other people because I wanted a level 8 portal. So I started engaging people, and I started helping them level, and I started sharing tips with them, and I started meeting them. And within about 6 weeks, we were able to build our first level 8s. And from then, I just kept going.
Nice, nice.
Well, agent illusion, I really can't find any meaning or translate or whatever for your codename in English. What does it mean?
I invented the word. It's a cross between an illusion and to elude.
Oh, wow.
That's cool. You're the second agent we've had on that has invented their game name. That means nothing.
It's an old handle that I used to do. I invented for Star Siege Tribes 2 back in the day. Massive multiplayer. It's not a game like WoW, but it's a game where it's much like Counter-Strike with jetpacks, and you play capture the flag on massive maps that are about 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers, virtual gaming. Ran a community with about 200 people. That was almost 10 years ago now, and that's where the name just kind of stuck with me since then.
Very cool.
Well, and you are probably the only person that I know of, or most of people would know, that actually keeps a complete collection of all the Ingress media. Now, can I ask why, and how many of those that has Andrew's face on it do you have?
None with Andrew's face. It's a collection of mine, and I am missing a few pieces. I do have Ingress Report 1 through the one that was released last week. It was a special episode this week. I get rid of the special episodes, and I just keep the Ingress reports as a collection. I have emailed Brian Rose. For my nomination for the Elite 5, I was given a passcode, and I wanted to return it. And I wrote Brian. I said, I don't want the passcode. Could you please give me a passcode for my missing media? And he never got back to me. So I'm missing, I think, 5 episodes between 7 and 12 or something. It's in the email, Brian. Other than that, it's a pretty full collection, and I like it because it's unique. It's something
so how much space does it take?
About 70 slots, and all my teammates laugh at me. All the resistance agents that hear about it laugh at me, but it's a personal collection. It's something that can't be obtained nefariously or maliciously. Gear can be obtained freely by anyone, and it's only something that somebody can have that has been there since the beginning and has wanted to collect. So it's just something that I carry along with me.
Wow,
If you want one
that's
with my dirty book on it, people just drop it. They know where I live. They just keep dropping it on my freaking doorstep. So I'm more than happy to offload them to you when I see you in Montreal.
Yeah, I'm the guy behind you that's picking them up to see if it's the one I'm missing.
Sorry, Jorge.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Darren, what are your two pieces of advice for the new players? I hope it's not to collect media, because it's something that
The two pieces of advice that I give every new player is turn notifications off and don't get attached to a favorite portal. And you'll enjoy the game a lot more that way. When it's casual, when it's waking you up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's probably time to turn it off. And I know which resistance players leave it on at 3 in the morning, so it's fun to go by and knock on their door. But it doesn't apply to me. Since I turned notifications off, and I've been able to sleep, and I've never had a favorite portal.
Excellent.
Totally agree. Totally. Tell us, please, what was Operation Catch 22?
During the recursion event in Austin, Texas, which was a primary, we wanted to raise the global MU count, so we created a 22-layer field from Amos, Quebec to Rimouski, Quebec to Vermont. And in total about 80 million MU, but for the checkpoint, I think we did 37 million before the checkpoint was up on the fourth measurement. And then we did another 10 million, and then the anchors were destroyed in Vermont. There was 8 anchors in each city with 22 fields. Resistance agents stuck around, so we decided to go into hiding for 6 hours, and then we came back and created, I think it was 7 more control fields for another 23 million, for an overall total of about 70 million MU.
Wow.
Nice.
So with these stats, which would you consider to be your favorite?
Total MU captured, which is currently 41 million.
That's impressive.
And I'd really like to see a badge there, because it's the primary context of the game for team play, and badges are awarded for stuff that can be achieved as an individual. Large fields cannot be achieved by yourself. You need teammates. You need people to work with you in order to do that. And I'm disappointed that there is no badge for MU captured or longest length, and I'd really like to see one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people share that sentiment. It's like you said, it's a team game, right? So I think I have like 100 MUs captured. I keep making level or 1 MU fields all over the place. I can't seem to make anything bigger. I'm in awe of you guys that make these giant fields across the country and the ocean and all that. That's pretty cool stuff. So
yeah, it all depends on your geography. If you're living in the middle of New York City, obviously you're not going to be able to create much. If you're living in India, there's a lot of open space, and it's a lot of availability for MU there. Quebec is kind of a mix between the two, where we do have congestion and there is work needed to clear. The MU doesn't come easily because there are not many portals that I know of north of here. So the majority of it has to be done near Montreal, between Montreal and Quebec City. So we're averaging about between 1.5 million and 2 million per field that we create, but that requires at least 15 or 20 people to make happen. So when we do them, we like to layer them.
yeah, capturing those opportunities when you have them is definitely key. Got to capitalize on those.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, actually, you're a person I know is pretty detail oriented. You like to plan things, and I'm just curious, has there been a time where you had an operation or a mission and it didn't go as planned? It was kind of difficult. You learned something from it, made you a little bit of a stronger person, showed you maybe, I'm not talking about like a blocking link just came in the way, but something where, I don't know, you had the Egyptian police, try to arrest you like one of our guests or something like that.
Oh, we had an op from Cornwall to Sutton to Rawdon that got interrupted. We started building the fields early, and the local resistance were able to respond in time before the checkpoint. So we tried going into hiding, but we'd already played that card during Catch-22, so they stuck around on that Cornwall anchor and brought down Rawdon, and we were unable to re-erect the field in time. We moved a little bit in, and just due to bad communication and just some oversight, we weren't able to build it again by the next checkpoint. So every team on those anchors learned something. Just because you fail doesn't mean that you didn't succeed. If you don't try, you've already failed. If you succeed and fail, then that's a different story. So every operation that you try to put together, whether it's successful or not, you can definitely build yourself and build your teammates up from it and learn something and take it to the next operation.
Very well said.
Yeah. Well, Darren, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to sit down tonight and our first guest. I really enjoyed talking to you. Can you stick around a little bit for a panel discussion after the next guest?
Absolutely, guys. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you too. Well, guys, our next guest is from the state that even didn't exist the last time the Cubs won the World Series. Sorry, Kelly Colton. But please welcome John Hyrne from Hawaii. Aloha, John.
Oh, there we go. Welcome, John.
Oh, there it is. Aloha. How's it going, everybody?
Aloha.
Good.
John, besides making giant links for the U.S., rumor has it that you are involved in philanthropic work. Can you explain what did you do and for whom?
Absolutely. It all started when a friend of ours, one of our agents, were on an operation, and he pulled me on the side. Steve Diamond, I guess he runs a board gaming club, and every year they participate in this 24 hours of gaming benefit. It's for the Children's Miracle Network, and so we thought it'd be a great idea to do that for Ingress, to actually be out there for 24 hours playing. So we got our team together, and we went out there, we played for 24 hours, and we raised over about $1,000 for charity. It was a long night, but we believe it was worth it. And then ever since then, we've really been trying to stay focused on doing charity work every month. So we just finished our AIDS walk, and next week we're going to start Red Faction Week, of course. And then next month we're going to do a walk for the American Cancer Society.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, really good to hear. Well, hi, John. Good to see you again. The last time, just a little bit of trivia that I'm going to share is the last time I'd actually seen John and maybe the first time I actually met John was the night he had turned 8. He was the first enlightened 8 on Oahu. And that was... Yeah. So it's pretty epic. I was a lowly little level 5 and looked up to him while I was hanging out there. But good to see you here. We've come a long way in the past year.
Thanks, Daphne. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Delay, it happens, technology, and we're on opposite sides of the country. But so what would you name the autobiography of your life?
Let's see. I think I would name it Levels of Life, since well, I figured our real lives and our agent lives follow a series of goals, right? We achieve our goals, reevaluate, set another goal, and move on. And that's kind of what we do every single day, in game and in life.
Interesting.
I like that. I think I would buy that just because of the title.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely are a person who I know in the enlightened community is really well respected. You manage a lot of different personalities, and you're pretty much pulled into all the big events because of the location of where you're at. Um, so, with all the skills that you've got, is there something that you wish you could learn, like a life skill or professional yoga? I don't know if there's professional yoga, but
Well, I know the operations are always fun, but when I think about something like that, I got to look back at the year and a half I've spent being a co-moderator for our cross-faction community. And I think just based on that experience alone, I qualify for either a PhD in diplomacy or probably a license to run and operate a preschool. Can't quite decide.
interesting.
Okay. Well, and it does require some interesting skills, like, well, honesty. And how do you define it?
Oh, honesty. Well, I guess, if we look at it, well, I guess it's the ability to get through our day and get home and be able to look ourselves in the eye when we look in the mirror and be happy with what we've done all day. I don't think I could, if I lived a dishonest life, there's no way I'd be able to do that. And it's also actually, it works out good in our community as well, too, because, well, there's a lot, right now, I guess there's a lot of cheating. Not a lot more, but, it seems to be something that's fairly commonplace. And I think every community has to deal with certain levels of dishonesty. So being able to recognize right from wrong and have everybody else recognize right from wrong, we can all make the right decisions.
Very well said. Before we get into the viewer submitted questions, which I hope you don't mind, are you native to Hawaii? Did you grow up there?
Well, actually, I was born in Pittsburgh, but I moved here when I was about 3 months old. So for all intents and purposes, I'm a local.
Gotcha. And what do you do?
Oh, I'm actually I'm a systems administrator at the Tripler Army Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah. Another IT person playing Ingress. That's unique.
I'm noticing a trend today. Yes, definitely. So. All right. Well, do you mind if we dive into the viewer submitted questions?
No, that'd be great.
Wade into the deep end of the pool and see what we've got going on here.
Sure.
Let's see here. We'll reach into the grab bag. How about? Oh, this is a good one. Another one from Sherry Pui. What is the biggest challenge in playing in your particular area, especially since, you're in Hawaii?
The biggest challenge to playing? Well, let's see. But in the beginning, it was actually far more challenging because there was only a handful of us playing, and the portals were really far. Well, really far from an island point of view. And I now that I'm more involved with what's happening around the planet, our island's not that not that big. But there was a time when we'd be playing, and people would be scouring the map at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and then it'd be a mad dash for a portal, 24 hours a day. And then nowadays, though, our portal density is just so high. It's just a matter of just bumping into each other, which is actually good. But it's always a challenge. It's just trying to get through the day, trying to find time to play, especially because so many people here are busy. It's not exactly cheap to live here. So most of us are working at least one job. So being able to get through our day and then put in some time out there in the field, that's probably our biggest challenge.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So speaking of challenges in playing there, how do you keep your team motivated?
I think trying to create time is the key to keeping people motivated, because if we don't stay in constant contact with each other, people have a tendency to stray off.
Yeah, I want them to feel engaged in the community. Definitely, I can see that.
Yeah, that's our primary way to get together. We try to plan as many get-togethers as possible, but a lot of time constraints. It takes a lot of planning to get people actually physically together. But in the end, it works out, and we always have a lot of fun.
Well, John, I'm always curious about why people choose their actual faction. So because I think it's all about a little bit with personality and personal experience in certain areas, maybe work, maybe in your life, or a particular aspect in your life. Why did you choose Enlighten?
Well, it was actually a pretty easy decision for me. From the time you select your faction, and before that, I kind of asked around to see what the factions were really about, and it was a no-brainer. I've always been the type I like to take risks. I like to try new things, regardless of the outcome. It's always fun to learn and always to seek knowledge, and that was enlightening. The resistance to me just it didn't appeal to me at all. It seemed like they wanted to stay protected and not really want to expand their minds.
Really?
Do you disagree, Jorge?
No, I'm okay. There are too many greens here, so I'm okay with that.
You're safe, man. You're safe. It's okay.
Yeah, you are safe, and you represent your faction tonight.
No, I disagree a little bit with that, but well, um, I had to admit, and I had admitted here in my community that at the beginning, when I was like um, thinking what faction to choose, uh, Green faction passed through my mind because I'm a guy that always want to seek about information and I love history and I love all these things about aliens too and I was so tempted to the green side, but at the end I also uh, I'm jealous about the my own thoughts to defend my own thoughts and to have my own ideas, and that was what leaned me to the blue side.
To each their own. There has to be, there's got to be not the villain, but there's got to be the hero to the anti-hero. Sort of weird.
I could see a lot of people making comparisons with our game to other types of genres. You know how we're compared to we're either the Empire versus the Rebels, and like Terminator, right? We're Skynet versus the Resistance.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily accurate. What we're doing is we're seeking knowledge.
Before we make up our mind, we're seeking knowledge. Yes.
Yes.
But it is not that shapers are getting into your mind. You don't have to seek anything. You are getting uploads of thoughts, so you are not seeking anything at all.
It's an interesting take on it. we could probably debate the whole blue-green thing for hours on end.
Yes, true.
We all know the right answer, though.
Yeah, and I'll get you off the hook, Jorge. But thank you for. Don't want to gang up on you or anything at all. You do represent your faction really well, so I'm gonna hand that to you. All right, back. Sorry. Well, back to more Ingress talk. John, now, how did the introduction of VRLAs change Hawaiian Ingress?
Well, that was a huge turning point for our entire island, both factions, obviously. Before then, we didn't even realize there were really that many other players because we were just isolated. No one ever spoke to us. And then the moment that it was announced, it was just nonstop, both sides. We would just talk about. All of a sudden, everyone wants to be our friend. It's like winning the lottery. And ever since then, it's just been complete mayhem, and I love it. We're just having such a great time with it.
To be fair, I did reach out to you because I thought I was going to be going to Hawaii in February of 2013. So, for my own selfish reasons, I did actually care before the very rare link games.
Yes, I remember you, Andrew. I can't forget your name for one thing. That was like one of the funniest names I've seen yet in the game. And then of course you joined our community for a little while as we were expecting your arrival.
You guys are really active, so I had to leave it because I felt rude just muting the notifications. So but hey, that's awesome. Active communities, that's awesome. That's what the game's about. So, and actually, because of that, I know that you guys and you specifically have been involved in a ton of Ingress missions. Do you have one that's your favorite?
You know, I've been asked that before, and there's only one mission that none of us will ever forget, and that was K2. Hiking K2 for Enlighten Us. That was it was hilarious because from a week out, you know, we had 8 people. We were going to make an L8 portal at the top of that mountain, and about a week out, we started seeing thunder shower predictions coming. So we had to start monitoring the weather very carefully, all the way up to that day. It still wasn't quite sure, although they were saying it was going to happen. And so we sat there, you know, we were up late watching the weather, and I finally got to bed about 1:30, and we were up at 3 o'clock to make that drive over to the trailhead. And we just decided we're just going to get there, look at each other, and decide what we're going to do. And since we had so many people depending on us, and we've never failed an operation yet, we decided to just go for it. Let's see, the first section, it was completely dark, and it was wooded and muddy because it had been raining all week. So we made it through there. By the time we made it to the first lookout, the sun was coming up, so it was a little bit easier. But then the rest of the trail is extremely technical. It travels alongside a mountain it's only about maybe 12 inches wide and loose, and it's a straight drop down. So it was pretty slow going. It's a 4-hour hike to get to the summit. And we did manage to get there. The last section was nearly vertical. Well, it is vertical. You have to climb with a rope to get to the summit. And we got up there, and I guess there were some blockers in the way over at, I believe, towards Canada. So we had to wait. They asked if we would wait. And we knew that our window closed at about 11 because it took us about 4 hours. They're expecting actually a lightning storm anytime after noon. So we really wanted to get off that mountain. But turns out, you know, they had us wait, and we were happy to wait because in the end it was worth it. So they finally gave us the green light. It was 4 hours up, and it took us about 2 hours to get down because about 1/4 into the hike, we started hearing the first sounds of thunder, and then everything went completely black. It was dark. And then we started seeing the lightning, except the lightning was below us. So we had to hike down into the lightning storm. And the whole time it was just completely thunder showers. And we were sprinting because there was lightning directly overhead the whole way down. And so we finally made it out. And by then the field hadn't quite dropped yet, so we weren't sure if it was going to be worth it or not. But by the time we made it to the cars, we got cleaned up, and then all the hangouts just started blowing up, and all the screenshots started posting, and that's when we knew it was totally worth it. And we were looking back on that. It just added to the excitement. You know, we made it out alive, and everything was great, and it was a huge, huge operation. And after that, we went directly to a party bus because we were also having we were celebrating the anniversary of our first L8 portal. So we had just enough time to get cleaned up, run over to the Honolulu Zoo, and jump on this party bus where we partied the rest of the night away.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow.
It was great.
That's awesome. You have a lot of interesting portals there in Hawaii, and I want to know, because there's people that love portals, and there are people that doesn't care so much about it. So, do you have a favorite portal?
I can't say that. I'll never have it green in my life. But really, no. There's no portals that I really hold dear. I like those really challenging portals, though. Those are always fun. And I see there's a lot of us that really enjoy hiking and getting out there. You know, we have a portal out there on a remote island that we have to kayak out to, and we've got several on extremely high peaks and more coming. So I'd say it just as a favorite type of portal. The harder it is to get to, the more I like it.
Is it these adventures or something else that keeps you personally playing Ingress?
Well, the good thing about Ingress is you can play it pretty much any way you see fit. There's people that just like to build and farm. There's people that just go out and just bomb everything in sight. People like to coordinate, do big fields. There's so many different roles that you can play in this game that it's just never boring. So I've done it all. And right now I'm having a lot of fun doing these global operations. The coordination, planning, the people I've met ever since that first VRLA dropped on us, I've just lost count of how many amazing people on both sides. You see brilliant people working and doing this thing every single day, and it's just inspiring. So I'm really looking forward to more of that, and every single month we're just getting more and more requests for assistance. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool.
So you mentioned that you like really, really hard portals to get to. Besides, obviously, I assume K2. What is the most dangerous portal near you?
K2 is by far. It's considered an advanced hike, and so that would probably be the most difficult one. It's the real deal. We also have another one that's been a bit of a controversy for us on both sides. It's called Haiku Stairs, also known as Stairway to Heaven. It's an old World War II stairway that goes all the way up to a summit. But the problem is that the state has it closed. You can't access it. It's illegal to access the stairs. But there's actually a back route that's probably at least twice as farther, but it's a legal way to get to that summit. So as of yet, that portal is still uncaptured. So I'm pretty sure both sides are making plans to get that.
If they weren't, they are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, John Hyrne, for taking the time to be with us tonight. It's good to see you. And for all the Ohana that's watching, aloha. Hope to see you sometime again. You're making me a little homesick, even though Hawaii wasn't my home. It was for a little while. So great to talk to you here. But not to end that at all prematurely, do you have time to stick around for the panel discussion?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Great. All right, let's bring Darren back. Yay, there he is.
There he is.
All right, so we had yes, welcome back. All right, so we have a good question about, from Jean-Pierre. How do you think the upcoming iOS will change the game?
Interesting question. Who do you want to answer that?
Darren?
I think, well, yeah, let's start off with Darren.
Okay.
iOS is a pretty big consumer market in North America. I think probably most of the impact will be felt in the US and Canada. Europe is probably mostly Android-based, so we'll probably see a large population increase. I've always assumed that, or guessed that Niantic would look at a way of releasing a third faction, or what everyone likes to call the red faction. I feel if they were to do it at any point in the Ingress timeline, it would be on the iOS release with a forced entry into a third faction. So it may be possible that Enlightened and Resistance would have to work together against the third faction, because you would have thousands of rats running around destroying everything, looking for every scrap of AP. And Resistance and Enlightened would have to bond together in order to keep the resources and keep the farms up against this growing enemy. That would be very weak at first and very formidable in the end, which is actually kind of the story of 13 Magnus.
So are you suggesting that the iOS folks would have their own faction, or there would just be a third faction to choose from when they come online?
I would assume if Niantic were to, if I were Niantic, I would force all iOS users to be forced into the third faction, the red faction, the color of an apple.
Interesting. There are green apples too, though, to be fair.
You might have new allies. All right, so Jorge, putting you on the spot again. Your
Okay.
thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I think if iOS users get forced to be a newer faction, it would be unfair for them because they don't know anything about Ingress. So even more if both factions, green and blue, had to join to fight that faction, we're gonna crush them. And well, it's not a bad idea that we Android users go and crush some Mac users, but well, it's not that fair. And I think uh, I agree on what Darren said about that the greatest impact is going to be maybe in US and Canada. I think it's not so much into Europe. Um, Latin American is I don't know. I think we are more Android users or maybe even Windows users, but yes, there are a lot of people using iPhone and iPads and whatever. And but I think that as I said to John when I asked him uh, why he choose his faction, because I think it's something going on there on the choosing that has to be with your personality, that people that loves and enjoy work with Apple things like iPhones and things like that. They have their own personality and they have their own way to see the technological world, and I don't know if they're going to fit really well in the Ingress world, because maybe it's my perspective, but I had always seen the people that loves, and I quoted, like really loves iPhone and Apple things, that they're a little bit like square, with yeah, because I don't know, it's my perspective, but I think it's they're a little bit um, I don't know how to say it, but they're a little bit closed in their perspective of things, and maybe they are not going to fit really well in English, but I don't know. Maybe it's me. It's just me.
Okay, I'm going to interject now because if it
Oh
weren't
no.
well, if it weren't for a specific technical issue, mainly that my former employer would not offer its discount for Apple or Apple products, I would totally be an iPhone user. Um, I don't know, maybe it's the California thing, or I like the philosophy of it. I like the simplicity of it. I'm one of the few non-techie people, but I'm also extremely cheap. And so if I get offered a really good discount for products, I'm going to take advantage of it. So I got the Android by default, and until this game, I kind of regret it because the phones are really big for my small hands, and also thankfully now to Ingress, I have a lot of technologically minded friends, but yes, I'm one of those iPhone users that just happens to defaulted to Android, and so here I am. All right. Okay, Jean.
But your personality is more adventurous, so that's why you fit in English.
I think a lot of iPhone users are as well.
Yeah, I think you might be. I mean, I'm an Android fanatic, but I think you might be buying a little bit too much into the Samsung commercials and the hype on what iPhone users are.
No. Maybe it's because of the people I know, but that's it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, but I'm also an automatic driver versus stick shift, so you know, I don't know if that is a similar comparison, but Andrew, you chimed in a little bit. Your thoughts?
I can't wait till all the soccer moms are playing Ingress. That's going to be so awesome. No. On a serious level, though, I think one of the hardest things that the iPhone users are going to have is onboarding and understanding the story of the game and everything that came before them. Obviously, there's the 2 year in review type videos, but educating them, if they care to know it, is going to be a challenge because they've missed almost a year and a half, 2 years worth of content. The mechanics, they can pick that up. I think for that reason alone, there won't be a third faction that they're forced into because they're going to need to be nurtured and just like anybody else that comes on to figure it out. And we're not just talking about 3 people here, 4 people there. I mean, we're talking a lot of people that are all of a sudden going to be playing the game. How do I think it's going to change it, though, besides the glut of people? I know for a fact that I've got 4 people in my office that are waiting for it to come out, so we will have a perpetual level 8 farm at work because we'll have now like 11 people there who are playing the game. So I think you're going to see a lot more level 8 portals standing, and maybe it's going to increase the interactions with folks. So hopefully you'll see a larger social aspect. I mean, just naturally, because the population is going to be growing, you're going to have more interactions. And so the social side of things, I think, is getting ready to probably blow up in a good way, not an XMP type way. But yeah, I don't think it'll be bad. I'm not worried about Jorge's hipster iPhone users coming and destroying my portals. I think educating the glut of people that are going to hopefully start playing is going to be the biggest challenge. So that's all I got. And hopefully the soccer moms will not play and drive at the same time. That would be pretty bad. My wife is actually an iPhone user, so I can say that because we have kids that play soccer. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, and we also have the tutorial that Epidemic has offered us.
Ingress Boot Camp.
Yes, the Ingress Boot Camp. Absolutely.
You got that. All right, last but not least, John.
I'm actually looking forward to it. It's going to probably double the population of agents running around wild. That's more people for our communities, more people to help. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. I noticed that a few of my contacts, too, that either own businesses or they work for businesses, they're looking forward to that, too. That when they think about the sponsorship, as far as they're interested when I start talking about how Jamba Juice and Zipcar all got involved. They always want more information. I can point them towards the Niantic people, but when I talk about iPhone coming on board, they always get really excited about it. So in that sense, it's going to be great for us. And I'm looking forward to it. I just don't understand how they're going to be able to play on those tiny little screens.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, though, rumors are, and I think they're pretty well founded, though, that the iPhone screen is going to be larger with the next version that comes out.
Yeah.
So there's that.
5.5, no?
The 6, the 5, and the 5S, I believe, are already there. So, but also keep in mind, too, that oh, wow. My brain just completely left my head.
Okay.
I was going to make a really important point, and then it just escaped. So, oh, I know what I was going to say. Updates. So it takes a little bit to get software into the App Store, and for some odd reason, it takes a little bit longer for Google products to make their way into the App Store. So, Niantic's done a really good job with coding things so they can push things out on the back end. But it'll be interesting to see what happens when things are released, if they're 154 and 154, or if it's something else, because Niantic had to submit it, 6 months ago, because of just the way that Apple plays ball with Google. So that'll be interesting to see how they play that out initially.
Okay, good to know. All right, guys. Well, it is just about 10 o'clock now, and time to wrap up the show. If for those of you watching, if you know someone who could also be a good guest, please let us know by going to bit.ly/BTS_guests. And if you missed part of the show, and you are welcome to watch the whole thing on our YouTube channel, and that address is youtube.com/BehindTheScanner. And please check out Kelly Colton's show. Well, it's her Ingress Happy Hour that everyone is welcome to, and that's on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone from both factions is welcome, and you can find information on either the Meridian Project or Kelly's personal page, and we'll put a link for both in our YouTube for more details. Thank you all for tuning in to the show, and thank you, John and Darren, for being on the show. We'll be back next week, Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thank you all, and have a great week.
Good night. Happy hacking.
Bye-bye.